George Lucas's original film. And I learned about cinema through the lens of that film, because my father would explain to me, this is a lot like samurai movies, or this is a lot like westerns, or World War II films. And so that became my inroad. And then there was the whole Power of Myth with Joseph Campbell and Bill Moyers that was filmed up at the ranch. And that opened me up to the mythic structure and monomyth and my understanding of mythology and storytelling. And so to come back and return to this with the freedom that this new platform affords, because there's nothing to compare it to, nothing has been on TV other than the holiday special. And the idea of telling a story over more than just a couple of hours, told every few years, opens us up to this novelization of story and a return back to the roots in many ways of the Saturday afternoon serial films that my parents' generation grew up with cliffhangers, adventure, and those drawing from that type of style of storytelling lends itself really well to what we're tackling here. And so there's also it's fun not to have a preciousness in the way we're telling the stories, because we're coming back to you next week with another one. And so to engage the audience in the way that I enjoy being engaged with the shows, with the films, the shows, specifically what ABC had done with streaming services, where it's bigger budget, it has a lot of the qualities and aesthetics of a film, but the novelization of the serialized storytelling, to me, that's where it really opened up a lot of freedom and opportunity, where we don't feel that we're repeating or copying anything else that people have experienced from Star Wars.
Dave, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's exciting for me because I get to be a part of it. So it's really relevant. I mean, I just found the whole thing exciting. I think as a kid growing up, you watch Star Wars and you think, I would watch this every week. And as television got more and more into genre over the years, and like I remember when Star Trek Next Generation came out and the promise of better visual effects on television, and it took big leaps. And as somebody that's always been into fantasy and science fiction, you were always waiting for a moment where you thought that what the images on television were as good as what you were seeing in the theater, but there was a big separation when I was a kid. And now I think it's gotten so close, and it's one of the things we can make something like Star Wars because technology has advanced, and that's one of the dreams that George had. Even when I worked with him on Clone Wars, he would talk about the future being streaming, the future being episodic serialized Star Wars, because like you said, it's what influenced him. So yeah, and it is cool to get to help make it, so I like that.
When I tell you I cried for that footage, I'm being dead serious.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It's the first time people are seeing anything.
We saw 27 minutes.
Yes. And we wanted to compile little bits from different episodes, because I think also part of what's fun about this is that, and with this new service, is that everybody, wherever they are, if they have this service, they're seeing it first, and it's nice to be able to show stuff to people to understand what it is, so you can talk about it and kind of cut through all of the how crowded the marketplace is with so many stories and so many services. So it's nice to have everybody here to react to it, which is really helpful in getting the word out. But it's also nice to have people to be able to everybody to experience something at the same time, which is what I really loved about watching my Game of Thrones, is that there's a sense of what's going to happen this week, and the idea that it's not cascading down. Now, of course, the service isn't available everywhere yet. Hopefully, that's gonna be over as it rolls out. Hopefully, everybody around the world will be able to have that same experience. But for us, there's a really fun dialogue that we're looking forward to that we usually normally get only at the conventions, where you get to show it, people get to react, and then you get to talk about it, and it gets us excited as filmmakers, and then that dialogue unfolds over the course of, and I'm happy it's being released at a rhythm, because it gives us a chance, although we're not able to react in what we're doing because all those episodes are done, it certainly will inform what we're doing the second season, which we're actually in first week of the second season's under our belt. cast when you see them. Especially Pedro might be a little tired. He was there quite late last night.
Should we bring out this tired cast?
Are they here?
Yes. Please welcome Pedro Pascal, Gina Carano, and Carl Weathers.
How you doing? Did you get some sleep or just power through? Okay.
I'll sleep here.
Hello.
Welcome to the party. Okay, now looking at this footage, I'm going to keep mentioning how unbelievable it was. I can't imagine what it was like for you guys on set. What was the moment you realized, I'm truly in the Star Wars universe? Pedro, what was it for you?
Well, putting the helmet on, for sure, which they had handy in our first meeting. And to see if it would fit, it fit perfectly. And I guess, you know, very simply trying to talk about it for the first time and looking in the mirror. You can't see very well with the helmet, but I got a pretty clear impression. And if you grow up, you know, playing with Star Wars toys and obviously seeing these movies, and then you're staring at yourself and you are the image of that kind of childhood imagination, it's a super pinching moment. Quote me exactly, super pinch.
Is that a hashtag? Super pinch.
Hashtag super pinch.
For me, it was my first day on set, seeing the whole costume come together, and John and Dave came, and you know, they made such a big deal out of, oh my gosh, look how great you look. And I was like, wow, this is really great. But then I saw what they did to everybody, and I was like, oh, you did that to everyone? Okay. But it really honestly was one of my favorite unforgettable moments, being on set, seeing the other cast members, but be it behind a helmet or a creature or this one.
Or this one.
And then actually my first day on set, I was on a blur. So I was up on this big thing, and I was just like, okay, this is it. This is my life now. So it was incredible.
And John did sort of a slow roll on me. It's like okay, I've got this thing that I want to talk to you about, and okay. And first of all, I mean, I'd met John, so we had a lot of interaction, even though it wasn't like really personal stuff. But we had a lot of interaction, and I really admired him, and I'm sincere about that. I really admired him because this guy is super smart, ridiculously smart, about much more than just making movies. So that was number one. So I'm fascinated, and I'm saying, okay, those are the kind of people I want to be around and know, so I can maybe like grab something that he's got that I really admire. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you folks know this. I'm going to embarrass you a little bit. Happy birthday, John.
Oh, thank you.
Today is your day. Today is the day. Happy birthday.
The big 3-0.
There you go. We're so glad that it happened, that you came along, so we could get a chance to celebrate with you. But anyway, you know, the thing is, when we finally had the meeting about it, and not unlike Pedro told the story, when you walk into that room, the conference room, and all this art is on the walls, and he is so passionate about it all, and it's all magnificent. I mean, it is some of the most beautiful artwork you could ever see. If you were a collector, you want to go through and take pieces off the wall because it's that beautiful. And then he started telling me basically what this was about his character. And it's like, are you kidding me? I'm working on something that Disney is going to be behind. I'm working on something that Jon Favreau is like marshaling through. And I'm working on a Star Wars kind of invention. And then I get a chance to meet Dave Filoni. And now it's like, oh shit, we're in good hands. We're in really good hands. So that was my introduction, and I'm happy to be part of it.
We really did rope him in. He's not kidding. It started off with, hey, maybe you'll do, there were
Yes.
2 episodes, and then it turned into, now we really like your character. I know this, we're talking about this, but I'm writing the last, so I don't want to say too much, but we worked him in a lot into the show, more than he agreed to. And now, in season 2, he's a part of our director's brigade. So I know him through the Directors Guild. So we actually met as, of course, I was a fan of his acting, but he's been more directing lately. So that's been fun. So this whole high-tech, innovative set that we've developed for these specific stories, by Carl being there and being part of it and seeing how we were putting this together and experimenting with it and seeing it all come together, he was perfectly qualified. He understood the story, understood the characters, the cast, and the technology. And so it's really fun to be working with Carl now on storytelling.
But you know, I gotta hit the ball back because honestly, I don't think it would have happened with a lot of people. John promised last year when I agreed to do this, because he knows I wanted to direct more and more, that if it got a second season, that he'd give me a shot. And I gotta tell you, I've been around enough to know that people don't always keep their words, you know, and it was like, absolutely, I'm in. So, you know, being a part of this, though, you know, is one of the greatest things that's happened in all the things I've been involved in, you know, in entertainment. So it's cool.
Oh, another Star Wars director, that's amazing. Well, speaking of the directors, there are a lot of names that you guys have pulled in. I don't want to miss anybody, so Bryce Dallas Howard, Taika Waititi, Dave Filoni. I mean, can you talk a little bit about what their contributions are?
And it's Dave's first time directing live action.
Long overdue.
Rick Famuyiwa also did a couple for us.
And don't forget Deborah Chow.
And Deb Chow, of course. She's who's going on now to do the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. So she came into Star. So this is really, you're going to see, I think, a lot of people that are working in this incubator of story and technology and Star, you know, really people who got together because they love Star Wars, and this, I think, enthusiasm that seems to be very contagious, not just with people on the couch here, but the artwork he's talking about. You know, that's Doug Chang, who's been part of it. A lot of people who came up through the ranks over the years since the prequels, and all of them slowly, like Tom Sawyer, coming together to paint the fence. And there's this real enthusiasm that's very organic as we're telling the stories, and it's a very collaborative environment. You know, we talk a lot about story, and I write most of it, but that's just a jumping off point for the directors to be very involved, very collaborative, and all the people who are involved, whether it's ILM or Lucasfilm or within the cast of Mandalorian, and so it becomes this really fun collaborative thing that takes on its own life and own personality, and I think you'll see with each of the directors, unlike a lot of television, the directors are really being given an opportunity to have authorship over it as though it were a film. So it's been very exciting for us to have that kind of environment to come to work to every day.
And John, you posted a photo of George Lucas and yourself on set. Can you talk about that experience? Who was on set that day? What did you talk about? Did you drink the wine?
We didn't drink the wine that day. I don't think I'll ever drink that wine. It's right on the mantle from Skywalker. But Carl was there that day. I think Gina was there that day. I know for sure this guy was there because I met Dave because I was up at the ranch mixing Iron Man, and he was secretly working with George on Clone Wars before anybody had ever heard of it. And I showed him Iron Man. He showed me Clone Wars. I was like, if you ever need a voice on this, I'd love to do it, which turned into me playing a Mandalorian named Pre Vizsla on his show. But what's so nice is that George had worked with him for, 10 years? And so they had worked together. So a lot of what's wonderful about working with Dave is that continuity of vision. And I know George really, I think, came by more to see, he came with Kathy because they have a long-standing relationship. But the thing that really stood out, and he didn't say it in front of Dave, but because he didn't want to embarrass him, but he was very, I could see that he was very proud of that Dave was getting now the next step, because when George discovered Dave was just an animator that he brought in. I'm sure you've heard the story, or he'll tell it, where he thought it was a joke, that his friends were pulling a prank on him. And then after he met with George said, do you want to run the show? And so it's been a long relationship in understanding filmmaking, understanding Star Wars, and now, as we get into live action, to take the next step. So I think that's a big reason he was there, was because he was, want to make sure I was, I think, continuing Dave's journey with him. And it was, I thought it was very, it was very, it felt very special, very special day.
Dave, you've been excellent about pulling kind of beloved characters into the first words Star Wars canon. Is there anyone that maybe we could be looking out for in The Mandalorian that you could tease us?
No.
Don't blame me for trying.
Yeah, no, I come to Dave like this expecting it, and I always feel the same. It'd be terrible to learn about anything that, here now rather than watching it. That's really the most organic moment, and everybody will be excited. I mean, I don't know, this has been a real special thing to me. It's something that I really, doing live action, I became interested in from working with George, and the way that he talked about how we should shoot Clone Wars. He would always speak in live action terms. The terminology was always around, and I didn't always understand how to apply it over the years, though I got a little better with it. And he's so steeped in technology, George, and pushing technology, previous systems, stuff like that on Clone Wars, that it just became a part of the language of filmmaking for me as well. And working with John is really natural, but it kind of continues that because he's very forward-thinking with technology and using tools to help enable greater storytelling. And I saw that, Jungle Book, just incredibly, so very inspirationally, and with the work that he's done in Lion King and whatnot. So for me, it was a great opportunity to work with somebody that kind of works in a similar vein, but I could really be challenged. And John has challenged me, I will say that, creatively, storytelling-wise. And you need that sharpening. You need to improve and continue a legacy of, frankly, being mentored. I see it as very Star Wars, this whole path for me. I've had a couple mentors now. I'm very privileged to have the ones that I've had. And I think my storytelling is definitely even a bit better for John, taking me in and showing me the ropes of doing live action and just my own writing. And it's, I say this, it's affected Clone Wars in the greatest way possible. For what I've done on that series, I've improved it, I think, in the storytelling thanks to this experience working on Mandalorian. But is there any, surprises? I mean, there are always surprises. I wouldn't know what made you cry any more than I would know what might surprise you.
The Life Day reference really got me.
Oh, look at that. See, that got you. That surprises me. So, I don't know. Well, it's always a wait and see in the best possible way, I think.
Well, I think at this point we're going to open it up to the audience here, and we got a couple mics going around. I saw your hand first, so I think we'll start here.
Hi, congrats guys, that looked amazing.
Thank you.
For John and Dave, you mentioned Taika Waititi. He's obviously also voicing a character in the show. Can you talk about what he brings to the show and what it's like to work with him?
Well, when you bring in a director like Taika, that he's clearly doing it because he wants to, because the guy is just such a powerhouse right now creatively, and I think everybody's really discovering what a talent he is. People who follow comedy knew about him long ago, or independent film, and now he's just he's really enjoying a wonderful run. And so when he shows up, it gets everybody excited because it's a fresh energy on the set. He finds opportunities for humor. He brings his style of humor to it, but he also is a fan. And to me, that was the bottom line prerequisite. He didn't have to be the most experienced. He didn't have to have worked on Star Wars before. You didn't even have to have ever directed live action before. We had a few people, as we said, that hadn't done that. The thing was that you had to be willing to collaborate. You had to love Star Wars, and you had to want to do something great and help invent this new thing. And to have Taika in there as somebody who was a battle-hardened veteran who could come in and just has tremendous instincts and to work with the actors and to bring that, for me, to just be able to work with him. I had known him for a while, and from the Marvel world, we had been sharing experiences that we had had, but to actually be on the set and to witness what he did was tremendous. And then Dad to do the voice of IG-11 and bring that specific tone to that character, but also the tone to what he directed was fantastic. I'm grateful to him for that.
First of all, congratulations on the show. The footage was awesome. I'm curious, the making of the first season of any show, you're learning the infrastructure of how to put it together, what you can accomplish in a time frame, et cetera, et cetera. For each of you guys, what did you learn in making season 1 that you are now putting into season 2? And when will you announce the other directors of season 2?
Well, I learned a tremendous amount every day, and I think for me, one of the things is, I was on set every day the whole season, so I learned watching every single one of our directors. I learned watching our great cast, everyone behind the scenes. I treat it as, boot camp for me to learn this type of filmmaking, but then I tried to offer the knowledge that I've been passed on to me by George for Star Wars things and just the way that he likes to shoot things. But it definitely has affected the way I look at, a day. What can I accomplish in a day? That's a big difference for me, filmmaking-wise. We arrived on a back lot, and DP Craig's like, well, the sun's up, we gotta get going. I'm like, oh, right, because it's gonna go down. Animation, we really have that problem. So, you're getting on 6 o'clock, and everyone's getting squirrely, and you're like, the sun's going down, the sun's going down. I'm like, right, then we're screwed. So the whole set's going down. So there's a bunch of very tangible things that are going to happen, and I love having this experience and knowing the difference between animation. There are advantages and disadvantages to each one. I don't, frankly, at this point prefer one or the other. I like both experiences, and they're both unique. But I do love, and I've talked to Kathy quite a bit about this, as she's asked me the differences that I've experienced. There's something about the concrete nature of live action. It's incredibly spontaneous. It's going to happen right there in the moment, and then that's it. Where I can tweak a tiny eyebrow or a tiny smirk or give a subject just a little bit of a push in a direction that will dramatically change the character. You have to get all these variables to kind of come together and be aware of it. And it's not like you're controlling any of it as much as you're guiding it. And John would stand with me and speak this. You're looking at everything all at once. Where in animation, it's like a recipe that I can keep adding on. You have a lot of flexibility, thank God, in digital. In post, we can do a lot. But capturing that moment right in front of you is, I think, the real magic of it all. Something that I've been craving to try. And luckily, we have an incredible crew and cast that can capture those moments that hopefully you saw in the footage. But yeah, that's what I learned the most.
What about the directors of season 2?
Can we talk about that?
No.
Okay.
I'll just say yeah, we can talk about
one.
Maybe there's another one, maybe there's another one. There's a new person too, that hasn't been announced yet, who was working last night. So that's all I can say.
We'll go right here. Sorry, I'm putting it on.
Hi, I'm so nerdy now. That awesome.
That's our whole life right now.
So I wanted to ask, you teased in the footage that the Mandalorian never took up his mask. So when are we going to see it? And
Do you really want to know that?
Why would you hire that?
Do you want to come? We're wrapping Christmas presents. We're wrapping Christmas presents. You
The
really
real
want to come
question
in the room?
is, do we ever take off our masks?
And then my first question is, technically, Pedro, you don't have to be in the costume because. So how many?
Oh, but I guess I do.
So what would you say the percentages as far as you being in the costume versus a stunt double? Those are two questions.
Well, stunt doubles are essential to every large production. Just so you know, like even for the strongest people or agile ones. So none of it can get done without the incredible stunt work. I mean, especially what did you guys see today? Like 27 minutes or something?
Yeah.
You saw the whole clip. you have no idea the amount of star power from every department that goes into making something like this. From, the person that is like, working on the shine of my shoulder to the person who built the entire ship that I'm shooting on, or the whole set. I've seen some pretty big shit, but I haven't seen anything like this. And so, there's stunts, thank God.
I do my own stunts. I have never, in all my years, had a stunt person do anything.
I did not want to see anybody else in this car in costume. I was like, oh, is she running? Okay, I'll run. Okay, that's fine. No, we don't need her.
It's true.
Yeah, no, I really hated anybody that was in this costume. I didn't want to share at all.
And John
A
was
bit more generous.
We have time for one more. We can go over there. Yes, you. Yes, you, sir.
Oh, hey. She got a snack. You okay? Thanks, Ash. Great job. So I noticed the footage we saw, there were a lot of references to the Star Wars holiday special, Life Day. And of course, that's where we saw our first Mandalorian. Can you talk about why you wanted to connect those little dots?
I noticed there was a lot of, I guess there is. Well, definitely it was the gun, right? Mm-hmm. The pulse rifle. Just because, but here's the thing. I wanted to have it. We're starting with new characters, right? Everybody, there's all sorts of conjecture. Is this really? Is it going to really reveal that it's Boba Fett all along? Is it a character we already know? We wanted to start fresh with a whole new group of a whole new set of characters that you never met before. And what's nice about that, it's like it reminds me of when we were starting with Iron Man. So for new fans, these were new characters, new actors, and a new world. And actually, even the MCU in that version of it was new. So it was a really nice entry point for people who didn't know anything about Marvel before and just wanted to see a movie and they liked the actors that were in it. And we assumed that you didn't know anything, and so we taught you. Introduce you to everybody. But by the same token, the foundation of all of genre are the fans that have been there since the beginning and the people who grew up with it. And so how do you balance those two things at the same time? And I think for much of the time with superhero films, there was the notion going back, decades that the fans will be there anyway. Just make it as approachable and accessible as you can to the general audience. But I think that's changed a lot. And I think that Kevin Feige and Avi Arad and all the people who started off with the MCU, I think smartly realized was, no, those are your fans, that's who's been there along, and you build out from the grassroots. So never lose touch with the people who've put in the time and who've cared. And so there are ways that even though we have new characters in it and you could jump in because it's chapter 1, we wanted to make sure that if you were watching and you knew about it, and this is where Dave has really been a treasure trove because we tried to effort to work stuff in, whether it's humorously, like making a reference to Life Day, or a reference to a prop that has been appreciated by a core group over time, just putting those little Easter eggs in, or big movements in the story that reflect storylines in either the legends or in canon that people have known and had, and by the way, all of the animated content that Dave's been working on. How do you weave all of it together so that you don't have these divided, segmented parts of the audience, but you can start to bring it all together and coalesce it in a way that creates an overarching narrative and rewards the people who've been putting the time in over the years since they were kids growing up with it. So that's where, it's a sort of a long-winded answer of why I snuck a Life Day joke in there. But those were things that, and some of it was when I would write and want to see if Dave caught it and see what his reaction would be. And And he had veto power over everything. He's talking about like he's learning from me, but I'm learning just as much from him. And just tuning in on what is too far, where could we push it, what are things that hadn't been addressed. Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, it's very fun. Like, I would love John would write these scripts, turn around. We would have to talk, sometimes because I'd be in San Francisco, we'd be on the phone, and we'd just start rallying and come up with a whole plot for an episode. Kid you not, on the phone. And he's like, oh, okay, it's in my head, I gotta go, boom. Oh, okay. And then like a day later, here, read this. I'm like, oh, wow. There's a script now. And it's cool. I mean, it's really fun. And it's fun reading, John's take on Star Wars. I would read something like, oh, I see the holiday special back. I give him a hard time about it, because...
Well, it happened.
I've been through that, right? It's a long way of saying you really like the holiday special. And I've accepted that, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We know you have the gun in the show because you liked it and you wanted to have it.
The cartoon
And now
holds up.
it's in your office. And I get that. Like, I've never experienced that before. Like, you say, I want to design this, I'm going to have this, and then someone literally makes it, walks up to you and hands it to you. I haven't had that in animation. That's amazing.
That's the real thing, is you write it or we do it.
And then here it
Doug
comes.
Chang and all the artists.
Yeah.
The wall of artwork, and by the way,
Yeah.
that artwork will be worked into, we're trying to let everybody see that artwork, let's put it that way.
Cool.
But the artwork is the thing that makes the show, the art, I'll write something and then give it to them, and then by the time it goes through the Play-Doh Fun Factory, between him and Doug Chang and Lucasfilm and ILM, I see these beautiful images, and it's like and then you just write more.
Yeah, you get excited.
And sometimes I'll even give just some pages to them, have them draw, and then I say, what did they draw? And I start writing things that are impacted by that. That's what I mean by a collaborative environment that this allows
Well, then
for.
sometimes I react to your stuff. I remember it's like how George would react to what I was right at the beginning. And he'd be like, oh, okay, here we go. And then I could teach you the ways of the Force a little bit, which is what I'm there for. That's what I'm
And
very
then I'm the apprentice. So
Yeah.
that's what's been really great about it. And there is a discipline about it of let's make sure that we are authentic, disciplined, cohesive, and that no matter where you're coming from and what your background in Star Wars, you know that what we're doing is not being done. It's being done out of, we've really deliberated over it and discussed it and thought it through. And so if we depart in any way, we know we are, but it's with a plan. And part of it also is, what's the big arc? That's the other thing.
That's the fun thing, it's a plan, and like there are some things where I'm like, oh, I wonder if people are going to think of this. But then we think about what you're going to think about it, and then we're like, okay, then we'll see. Because you might know this move, but you don't know that move, and that's just the fun part, especially in series.
Yes.
We can make that work even better.
We can create a dialogue. Yeah. But just the feedback, honestly, that you've all seen footage is really very exciting, because that's really the other hand. It's media, so it is a communication tool between us and you and back again, and that's part of what we're getting excited for.
Well, I think I can speak for everybody when I say we'd like the holiday special. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much.